In this lesson, we're going to talk about Pauli's exclusion principle and Aufbau's principle. So Aufbau's principle states that we're going to fill, the electrons fill the lowest available energy subshell before higher energy subshells. So what does that look like? Okay, so here is the increase in energy. Here's the S subshell. Here's the P subshell, and here's the D subshell. And so S is lower in energy than P and D, and so we have to fill S before we fill D, before we fill P, and then D. And so if I'm adding electrons, I'm going to add the first one. I'm going to arbitrarily give it a positive spin. You don't have to designate it, but then I'm going to add the second electron, giving it arbitrarily a negative spin. I put the positive with the up arrow, the negative with the down arrow, just because that's just the way my mind works. But again, it's an arbitrary designation. As long as you are showing that one arrow is in opposite direction of the other, indicating opposite spin, that's what matters. And so when we enter the P subshells, we're going to add one electron. Now, the mistake is to add a second electron in that subshell. And so what happens we do instead is we abide by Pauli's exclusion principle, which states that we're going to fill empty orbitals first. Empty orbitals first. All right, so we'll fill that one, and then we'll fill another one, and then we'll fill another one before we start doubling up. And then we keep working our way up according to Aufbau's principle. So because P is lower in energy than D, we started at P, and now we're going to D. And so again, we're going to fill the empty D orbitals first, and then we can double up with the electrons. Again, the arrows are opposite direction, indicating opposite spin. And so what we're looking at now, let's look at an example, and that's carbon. So carbon, a review from general chemistry, which we won't go into, has the electron configuration of 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. So this is 1s, this is 2s, this is 2p, and then this is the D subshell, right? And so the way we're going to fill this up is we're going to fill the lowest available energy first. So that's Aufbau's principle. Then we're going to go up to 2s and fill that first. And then for 2p, again, we're going to abide by Pauli's exclusion principle and fill the empty ones first. Now, carbon is 2p, so we're only going to have 2 there. Now, in actuality, this is merely theory. We're going to talk about in another lesson what actually happens to these orbitals with carbon. But for now, all you have to understand is Aufbau's principle is filling the lowest energy orbital before we work our way upwards. And Pauli's exclusion principle is that we fill the empty subshells first before we double up on electrons. There's one more important principle, and that is to like the video, comment with your questions, and subscribe to the OChem Master on YouTube.